Hey guys, welcome back to Aunt Susie's Kitchen. Tonight we're going to make a red sauce, and it's a basic ragu. I have some simple ingredients here. This is the kind of sauce that you make when you're in a hurry and you don't want to cook a pot on the stove for hours and hours. Normally I would say it's a quick marinara. However, because I'm going to put some meat in it tonight, it is definitely considered a ragu. I have some really lean ground beef here. This is 90% ground beef, but you can use whatever kind of meat you like. You could use a whole piece of chuck. You could use some sausage if you wanted to. But like I said, this is my preference, is to use this. We used to call this meat sauce when I was a kid, and it really is one of our favorites. So very simply, I have some fresh parsley here, 1 white onion. I have some peppers, red and green bell, some garlic, which is essential. I have 4 large cloves, and I have 2 cans of San Marzano tomatoes. Now, with the San Marzano tomatoes, you can't get them everywhere. So be careful of the ones that say San Marzano style, because that's just nothing more than them trying to mislead you and let you believe that they're actually San Marzano tomatoes. Now, the difference between the San Marzano tomatoes and San Marzano style tomatoes, San Marzano tomatoes are a product of Italy. They are grown in the San Marzano region, which is a very ashy soil, and you cannot reproduce this. Even if you went to San Marzano and you got tomatoes and you took the seeds and you brought them home and you planted them in your yard, you can say that those seeds came from San Marzano, but you really can't consider them to be San Marzano tomatoes, because they didn't grow in the San Marzano region. Much the same with Vidalia onions. If they're not grown in the soils of Vidalia, Georgia, they're not the same. So, okay, enough about that. I have a little bit of oil here too, and inside that oil are some hot pepper flakes. I want my sauce to have a little kick tonight, so I'm gonna come over here and just bring you in front of my electric frying pan, which has been my best friend lately for those of you following. And I'm just gonna go ahead and put this oil in there with the hot pepper flakes. And you don't want to burn your hot pepper flakes. They get bitter when you do. So I have that temperature on really low. I want to warm them. I want to draw out the natural flavors and the natural oil from those seeds, and I don't want them to burn. So let me just come over here. I want to show you a really quick way to get your garlic peeled. And I know that peeling garlic can be such a pain sometimes, right? I started doing this one before off camera, and I'm like, you know what? This is such a pain. Let me just show you guys how I do this so I don't have to sit here and play with this paper, which is almost see-through. And then when you're lucky enough to get a good grip at it, your fingers have, you know, the oil on it from the garlic, and it's sticking to you left and right. So honestly, there's this nub here. This is the nub that attached the garlic to the bulb. Cut that nub off. That's it. From there, give it a crush. It will come right out of its paper, right out. Another way you can do it, if you don't want to smash the clove, like if you wanted to keep the clove whole, sometimes I just kind of move it between my hands like that, and then it'll also come off. Really what's holding it on, as far as I'm concerned, is that little nub on the bottom where it grew. And like I said, if you just kind of give it a little twist side to side, it comes out. And that's it. All the paper is off of those. Now, I'm gonna crush the clove, and this is the one that I started peeling on my own. What a pain. That's the easiest way to get that off of there. And even then it doesn't want to come off, so there. Put that to the side. We're not going to use that, it's annoying me. Okay, so I'm just going to give these a quick smash. That'll allow some of the oils and the essence to come out. And then I'm just going to give it a rough chop, and it's going to go right inside the oil as well. After that, I'm going to do the same thing with the onion. I'm going to dice the onion, and I'm going to put the onion in there, and then the onion and the garlic are going to saute for just a few minutes. We're going to get all of those beautiful flavors out of them before we start adding the tomato sauce and the beef. So I'm going to move this view back over here for you guys to see what's happening in here. Okay, so now, just bring this up a little bit more, and you'll hear it's going to start to sizzle, and that's what we listen for. already smells good in here. You know the trick with the garlic. Probably don't have to cook anything else for the rest of the night, and it smells like I cooked a 12-course meal. But again, I don't want it to burn, so I'm going to turn it down. And you know, again, because I am working with this electric frying pan, I really don't have the same control over the heat as I would if I was on a gas burner. So I'm kind of at its mercy, and I have to be really aware at all times of what's happening. So I'm just going to now chop the bell peppers. I'm going to dice them small. And listen, if you don't like bell pepper, don't put bell pepper in yours. I like bell pepper. My family likes bell pepper. You could also, if you wanted to, add some mushrooms. You could add a little chopped carrot. And really all we're looking to do is impart some flavor really quickly. Because like I said, this is not a pot of sauce that's going to cook for hours and hours. It's just a very quick ragu that we're making. Because we're using meat, we're going to be able to pull a lot of flavor in a very quick period of time. And because the beef is ground, that will help it all the more. Like I said, sausage would do the same. Little trick I have when I am putting sausage or I'm making sausage for my red sauce, I like to save some of the sausage water. And I like to use a little bit of the sausage water inside the sauce itself, you know, where you would take some cold water and rinse the cans out after you emptied the tomatoes from the cans. In that instance, instead of running water inside them, you would actually use the sausage water. And it'll also help give you a quick jolt of flavor. Okay. I think that's good with the onion. I have another small piece here, and that as well. Go ahead and give that a quick chop and finish that up. And you can see how quickly everything's cooking nicely. And like I said, I don't want that garlic to burn, but I do want to get it nice and brown, because that's really where some of the best flavor comes from when it comes to garlic. And that is when you get it to the point where it's just before burning, where you've just toasted it, and it's really released a lot of its flavors. Okay, wonderful. So, turn the gas up a little bit now because that onion was cold. When I was a kid, my grandmother and my mom, you know, every Sunday morning, that was the thing. That was almost like my alarm clock. I know it's time to get up when I can hear the sauce, or should I say when I can smell the sauce. Upstairs on the second floor, we had the typical Italian basement kitchen. We had the kitchen upstairs you weren't allowed to use, and the furniture you weren't allowed to sit on. And we also had a full-blown kitchen in the basement. That's where they would do all of their cooking. I have such fond memories of making pasta, sauce, all kinds of things in our basement when we were kids. But my grandmother would actually go through the refrigerator, and she would pull out all of the leftovers from during the week. Excuse me. And so if there was a pork chop left, she'd grab that. If there was, you know, a chicken leg left, she'd grab that. And that would all go in the sauce. You'll see I just put the meat in here. And I want to break it up while it's cooking because I don't want it to leave big chunks. So I'm just going to kind of smash it down. I have a little smasher over here. You can use that also if you have one. Even a plastic manual potato masher will work well. So anyway, so my grandmother would put all of those leftover meats inside the sauce. And I can even remember on occasion, she would actually just crack a couple of eggs in the sauce and let them poach right in the sauce. And I remember that being so normal to me when I was a kid. But I remember repeating it to some friends that I guess weren't Italian or didn't understand how large families made use of every ingredient in the house. And friends would be like, you put an egg in your sauce? That's ridiculous. But it wasn't ridiculous. It was delicious. And if you ask me, Grandma was way ahead of her time because that was really one of my favorite ways to eat eggs when I was a kid. Okay, so you see how quick this sauce is coming together? Should I say, well, now we've just got the buildings of the sauce. We've got the base to it. We're going to brown all of this, and then those tomatoes are almost ready to go in. Now, the tomatoes themselves are whole in the can, and they're in some natural tomato sauce. The sodium level is very low, just whatever's naturally occurring. They don't normally add any salt. I'm always very leery when I shop for sauce. I don't want one that has, 300 milligrams and a half a cup of sauce. So, don't be afraid to read your labels. There's no reason to buy ingredients that have more sodium in it than you need. I feel that sodium should be controlled at home. And also sometimes preservative sodium is the worst kind that you can have. So just watch your ingredients. These San Marzano tomatoes, they just read that they are whole peel tomatoes. That's it. Ingredients: San Marzano whole peel tomatoes, and then also puree, and then there's a basil leaf in there. So it's pretty simple. That smells great. This meat browns very quickly. Okay, so I used a 90% beef because I don't want a lot of fat in the sauce. You saw I started the garlic in a little bit of a neutral-based oil when I put it in with those pepper flakes. So you don't want, an 85-15 or an 80-20 here would just render so much more fat than you want to. If for some reason that's all you have, that's fine. But I recommend that you brown the beef separately and strain out some of that extra additional fat that's going to come off, just to kind of keep it a little more heart healthy. But that's just me. You can obviously do whatever you choose with that. Okay, so I've got the tomatoes. I'm going to actually turn this up just a little bit because once the tomatoes hit that pan, it's going to cool down really quickly. And you see they're whole tomatoes. They've been peeled, but they've not been chopped. Now, if I was upstairs in my kitchen and had access to all of my gadgets and toys that I have, I would pull out my my immersion blender, which I also refer to as a boat motor, and I would directly in the can use the immersion blender with obviously this piece up, and I would bring all of that to a hearty kind of pulp. I wouldn't completely liquefy it, but I would definitely use the immersion blender to chop up these big pieces and make a nice thick puree. But I can't do that because I don't have all my gadgets. So again, I will make do with what I have. I have this little masher here. My friend Lisa gave this to me. And it's pretty cool. I also have a plastic, like hand potato masher that I used to use, but I would find that stuff would get stuck in between with that. This, nothing gets stuck in between, and I can also stir with it, and it's not too big and it's not awkward. Okay, perfect. So we've got this going. I'm gonna give that just a little quick stir just to kind of incorporate everything. Big chunks don't bother me on the tomato. They're gonna cook down, and I kind of like getting a big chunk every once in a while when I'm eating my pasta. By the way, I boiled a pound of fettuccine. My husband requested fettuccine tonight. We don't eat a lot of pasta, believe it or not. If I get a yanker in for some, homemade sauce, believe it or not, I'll have spaghetti squash more often than I'll have pasta. But for some reason today, I just felt like having a good pot of sauce and some nice pasta with that. So that's what we're gonna have. All right, so this is, as you see, coming back up to a simmer. That's what I wanted to do. Let me get this. So, okay, so again, you guys know that my kitchen is kind of under construction. So instead of dragging out everything that I needed, I grabbed one of these little 2-ounce disposable cups that I have from catering. And inside this cup, I have all of my seasonings. I have a little bit of garlic powder. I have some salt. I have a tiny amount of sugar, maybe a teaspoon of sugar. But I also have, here's an ingredient you may not be used to putting inside your sauce, but you might want to after we talk about it. And that is baking soda. So I get heartburn very easily from tomato-based products. So did my dad, most of my family members, and a lot of people do. It's very common. My mom started putting baking soda in her sauce to neutralize the acidity, and believe it or not, it makes a world of difference. I never get heartburn from my own sauce. If I eat it out or I eat someone else's, and they don't use baking soda, I can almost always tell. And just a little bit of sugar, just to kind of give it a little, you know, a little bit of sweetness. But again, it was a teaspoon of sugar, so it's not a ton of sugar in this entire pot. These are 2 cans. These were 2 28-ounce cans of tomatoes. So judge that accordingly. And then, like I said, maybe, you know, 2 teaspoons of salt, a teaspoon or 2 of of garlic powder. And I know I put fresh garlic in there, but the garlic powder helps it, especially when you're making a quick sauce. Now, if you wanted to, you could make this exact sauce without the meat, and then you have a quick marinara. What I would do in that case is I would use probably 2 or 3 times of the amount of garlic, because again, you need to impart a lot of flavor in a very short period of time. And if you're not cooking it on the stove for hours and hours with meatballs and meat and all kinds of stuff inside it, it's hard to get that really good long cooking flavor when you're not cooking it for a long time. So over here, I am just going to rough chop this parsley, because I would like to get that inside the sauce also. You could also, at this point, if you were smarter than me and you would have thought of it when you were at the grocery store an hour ago, grabbed a bunch of basil. It is freezing on the East Coast. I have no basil left in my garden. I have none left in my freezer, so I can stop at the local egg market and pick some up, but I forgot. So I don't have any basil to go in my sauce. I love basil in my sauce, especially when it's just a marinara. Basil is almost a non-negotiable. But I have some parsley. Parsley also has a beautiful flavor. And I'm gonna go ahead and throw this in there. And I have a good amount. I have, like, you know, 2 or 3 tablespoons there. And that's it. I'm gonna just give this another stir. It smells good in here. You see how quickly this is starting to cook. Now, normally when I'm in my regular kitchen and I'm making this, I add my spices, you know, one at a time. And at the point where you add your baking soda, you actually get a little bit of foam. It'll foam up a little bit. In this entire pot, in these 2 28-ounce cans, I would put no more than a half a teaspoon of baking soda, because again, you just want to neutralize it. If you put too much baking soda, not only do you add a lot of salt to your dish, but you also will change the flavor, the consistency. It'll kind of be gross. You can't add too much of that. You'll ruin your sauce. So I'm going to put the lid back on this, and I'm going to let this go ahead and simmer. I am going to set a 10-minute timer, and then we're going to come back and put it all together. Okay guys, it's been about 10 minutes. This sauce is bubbling away. I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna turn it down first a little bit, and then I'm gonna take the lid off of it. Ooh, big smoke screen, okay. Look how nice and thick that is. You know, normally when you make a big pot like this and you start with just tomatoes or even just a sauce, you need to add a little bit of tomato paste to fortify it, but not in this case, not with all of this meat in here. You could cook it for a little bit if you wanted to with the lid off. That would also reduce it, but I don't think we need to do that. I'm gonna turn this down but just a little bit because I don't want it boiling all over me. Okay, so like I said before, I went ahead and I cooked a pound of fettuccine, and it actually, you know, when you let pasta sit for a few minutes, it sticks together. So what I always do, when you are making pasta, do not throw all your pasta water away. Save some of your pasta water. It has so many uses. But this particular use, this was almost full when I saved it, was I just poured it over the top of the fettuccine so that the noodles would separate, because I don't want them to stick together. And guys, please, please don't ever wash your pasta. Don't wash your pasta. I'll say it again. Don't wash your pasta. I can't think of any time where you would wash pasta, especially if you want your sauce to stick to it, because it won't stick to it. I promise you it won't. What's going to happen is you're going to wash away all that beautiful starch and nothing is going to stick to it. Your sauce is going to slide off. Your sauce is going to get watery. So one more time for those in the back, don't wash your pasta. Don't rinse it. Strain it and use it right away. And if it sits for a few, like I said, retain that pasta water, pour a little bit over it, and your pasta will loosen right up. Nothing will stick. The only very small exception I have to that is when you're making lasagna. If you use the box lasagna noodles, sometimes they stick together and you need a little cold water to pull them apart. And that's okay. That's probably your only exception because those are going to get layered. That's not the same as tossing it in a sauce. So, okay, I have this pasta over here. And what I'm going to do, again, doing this a little different than I traditionally would because I don't have a kitchen, is I'm just going to go ahead and put a little bit of it in here. It's been out for a few, so it's, you know, it's not as hot as I would like it. I like my food very hot, especially my pasta. So I'm just going to put this in here and I'm going to let it heat up. Look at that. My goodness. The sauce is beautiful. So I'm going to let that heat up. I'm just going to grab a plate, grab a dish over here. Okay, I'm sure that's hot enough now. So, turn it a bit, a little bit of time. Okay. True to form, I always get the plate dirty, no matter how hard I try not to. Plate always winds up getting dirty, but that's okay. I'll wipe it. Bring you guys over here. Finish this up, turn that down. Come over here now on this messy dish. Just clean this up a little bit. And then I'm going to grab, what did I just do with my spoon? Here we go. I'm going to put a little bit more sauce. Make sure I grab that meat. Look at that. Oh boy. That. It smells delicious. Smells absolutely delicious. Now, of course, you cannot have pasta without Parmesan. You could also, if you like, you could put a little mozzarella on here if you are a mozzarella lover. I am a Parmesan lover. I like it off the brick. I don't like the stuff that comes in a container unless it also is right off the brick, because the stuff that comes in the container usually has some fillers in it. Look at that. Looks delicious. Give you a good shot of that. I can smell the Parmesan, and I can smell the tomatoes and the peppers, and I tasted it a second ago to check it for seasoning. The salt is perfect, and I can taste just a little bit of heat, because remember in the beginning I put some hot pepper flakes in the oil when I was getting the oil ready. So that's it. Look how quick. That took us no time at all. And you can do this on a weeknight, or you can plan ahead. You know, the longer you cook this sauce, the better it's going to taste. Just don't let it cook away and evaporate, because you don't want that to happen. But I definitely recommend you giving it a try. So go ahead and get in the kitchen, make this dish. Come and visit us on social media. We are at Aunt Susie's Kitchen on Facebook, Aunt Susie's Kitchen on Instagram, and of course here on YouTube at Aunt Susie's Kitchen. And hit the like and subscribe button, and make sure you come back and see us sometime, because there's always something good cooking in Aunt Susie's Kitchen.